Welcome to Leigh Dickey TV. Hit subscribe to follow along with the fun. Now let's get on to today's video. All about the Simpsons today as I tell you how I would have originally written out Maude Flanders. All that and more next. Alright, so Maude Flanders. She is Ned's first wife, Rod and Todd's mother, and lived next door to the Simpsons as well. The entire Flanders family did. From, I think, the show's inception, if not shortly thereafter, right up until early 2000 when the character was killed off the show. She was written out and was killed because she fell off a raceway or a speedway grandstand after being hit by t-shirts that were shot out of a cannon. And I mean, when I originally saw that ending, or saw that that's how Maude was going to be written out back in early 2000, I think I was about 10, almost 11 years old. It was just kind of like, well, alright, I guess that's it. It was a surprise to me slightly, but I wasn't blown away by it, you know what I mean? It just kind of, I was like, alright, that's it, then they're going to do something else. I think the way they spun it at the time, and maybe even a little bit now, was that they wanted new storylines for Ned and I guess the rest of the Springfield-centered characters, right? But from what I gather, from what I've heard, it's because I think she was voiced by Maggie Roswell, and at the time she lived in Denver and wanted a pay raise to fly all the way to California where the show was being recorded, and they just couldn't come to an agreement on how to handle it. Whether, at the time, I mean, she's made guest appearances since then, but at the time they couldn't come to an agreement on, can you give me a raise because I need to get from Denver to where the show is being recorded in California. And the producers at the time felt they just didn't want to do that, I guess. And this was how they decided to end things at the time, was just to kill off Maude Flanders. Now the spin is, and it might even be true, I don't know, I don't work for Fox, The Simpsons, Disney, or anybody else involved with the show, but that they wanted to open up new storylines, but that's what I've heard, where they couldn't come to an agreement on her money and how to get her from Denver to California. I'm sure that, as time has gone on, recording from pretty much anywhere is pretty much possible. As you see, I'm actually recording this out at a local municipal sort of park here in my hometown. So recording nowadays from pretty much anywhere is pretty much possible. And she has subsequently made guest appearances as the ghost of Maude Flanders. But we're going to get to how I would have originally written her out had I been in charge right now. Personally, I wouldn't have gone with the ending for Maude that they did, with her, falling off of a speedway grandstand to her death after being hit with t-shirts that were shot out of a cannon because Homer bent over because he was distracted by something at his feet, and then just kind of, that was it. And, she falls to her death, and Ned looks over and, Maude? And you just hear Dr. Hibbert go, oh, she's dead. I wouldn't have gone with that ending and just, sure, it's The Simpsons, it's an animated sitcom, you can get away with a lot of things. You could get away with a lot more back then, but it's animated, it's sitcom, I get it. But that ending for Maude, I wouldn't have chosen, just wouldn't have been my desired ending. Whether the relationship between, say, Maggie Roswell and her voice actress and the writers and producers of the show, whether that relationship was a bit testy and acrimonious at the time, that's still, I would have given her more of a tasteful sort of send-off. If you couldn't come to an agreement, you couldn't come to an agreement. That doesn't mean that other person is awful or they're mean or they're just a pain in the neck, or you don't want to deal with them anymore. That doesn't mean anything like that, right? I disagree with people all the time. I disagree with whoever, like people that I still have relationships with now. Just because you disagree on something doesn't mean that, you know, you're never not going to do business again together. It means that you've come to a disagreement and you can't necessarily get somewhere. Like, you've come to an impasse and you can't seem to get past it for now, but that doesn't mean that it's going to last forever. So with that ending, it seemed to me like the first time I saw that and learned that, you know, Maude Flanders was dead, and then the reasons behind as to why, it just kind of felt like the writers and producers kind of going, okay, so this is the route we're going in because Maggie Roswell and us can't do business together anymore. It just seemed like a bit of a shot, you know, like they're throwing shots at each other, or they're throwing shots at Maggie Roswell. But I know that, you know, obviously that didn't necessarily last, as that she has come back to voice the Maude Flanders character in, like, as a ghost in subsequent seasons, as the show is still on the air, I think now, you know, in the midst of wrapping up season 32. But how I would have done it, honestly, since like Ned, Maude, Rod, Todd, and the Flanders flock, if you will, are so like God-fearing folk, right? I would have them kind of like, I'd have Maude, I'd make an episode out of it, because it was just sort of like, okay, Maude dies. This was how I saw the original anyway. It was like Maude dies, and then they go through the funeral, and then Ned tries to get back on the horse, if you will, tries to get back into the dating scene, and it's just kind of like, it just seemed rushed, you know, like with a character like Maude, right, who is such a central part of, say, Ned and Rod and Todd. Like, maybe I'm reading too far into it because she's an animated character, but this is how I would have written her out. It's just, I would have made an entire episode of it. I wouldn't have killed off the character, though. You know what I mean? I would have, you know, had Ned and Maude sort of, you know, every couple goes through their ups and downs. So have them go through a bit of an up and down period, and have Maude go, listen, Nettie, I love you, diddly, and just, but I need to find more. There's got to be more to this life than what we already have. The 2 kids, this house, I'm going to leave them with you while I go sort of find myself, right? I would have her go on some sort of like missionary work to do, like, build schools in another part of the world, right? For a little while, or at least until, you know, she was able to come back as Maude, until like an agreement was worked out. Just because I think that's more of a tasteful send-off for Maude and for Maggie Roswell. Just, I don't know, I don't necessarily agree with the killing off of Maude Flanders. I mean, you could have just done so much more with that character, in my opinion, and then just one day they killed her off because they came to an impasse about travel and money and what it would cost and what have you. I mean, such is business, it happens, but I just think that there was so much more they could have done with the character, right? And how I would have done it is just have her go build schools somewhere else in the world for a little while until she could return, right? Have them say, you know what, I just need to go find myself, or I need to go find another purpose, because the kids are fine, you're fine, I love you, but I need to do this for me. And then, you know, have Ned be upset, have him be sad about things, right? And have her sort of like impart some wisdom on Rod and Todd, and just have her reassure them before she leaves that everything is going to be okay. And then eventually have her return at some point, maybe not within like maybe a season or 2 or 3, however long it takes, but I wouldn't have just killed her off, right? I would want them, like Ned and Maude, like, say everybody's at the door. The Simpsons, Maude, Ned, Rod, and Todd, right? And even, you know, get as many townsfolk in there as you can. Even Mo, just kind of like, Maude, I'm gonna miss you. Oh boy, right? And just have as many people there to give her like that send off, right? Just, we're gonna miss you. And then let's sort of end the episode on not her walking out the door, but sort of Maude and Ned in sort of a final kiss and embrace, and then have them pull apart slightly, and both of them with shedding a tear, you know, with a tear in their eye and it running down their cheeks, and then just, you know, fade to credits or drop the credits in, and then that's it. Just, I would want her to say, look, this is my purpose now. I've raised the kids. I'm leaving them with you, and they'll be fine. You'll be fine. I love you all, but I need to go do this for myself. And I think that would have been a much better send-off for Maggie Roswell and the Maude Flanders character. But there you go, how I would have written out Maude Flanders from The Simpsons. Well, there you have it, how I would have written out Maude Flanders had I been in charge at Fox and The Simpsons during that time. Let me know what you think. Comment, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you have suggestions that you would like me to, say, put on how I would have and tell you how I would do things in terms of movies and TV, leave them down in the comments. Suggest them to me on social media. Links in the description. Thanks again for watching. This wraps up another video. I have been Leigh Dickey, your host, and we will talk to you next time. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Peace. Thanks for tuning in to Leigh Dickey TV. New episodes are available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Subscribe to follow along with the fun.